Okay, let's get on with the business of shipping. The maritime industry is one of the country's key economic segments, and quite a bit is happening. There is an economic gateway, not with the recent status granted the Nigerian Shippers Council as the economic regulator for a sector where you have a number of regulators. Let's cross over to our Abuja studios. Let's start this conversation about the Nigeria's economy at 56 from the shipping segment. Let's bring in Mrs. Zuka Ogo, who is the director in charge of consumer affairs at the Nigerian Shippers Council. Good morning, madam. Thanks for coming here, even though it's a public holiday here, to talk about your business at the Shippers Council.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us.
It's good to have you. And here, there you are.
Good morning. Thank you.
There you are in all made in Nigeria attire. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes. We love Nigerian attires.
I like that. I like that. Thank you very much for coming through. But let's start this conversation. Talk to us about your new status as an economic regulator within the shipping industry.
Actually, Nigerian Shippers Council status is not new. What has happened is like an amplifying the status Nigerian Shippers Council already has. If you look at the act setting up Nigerian Shippers Council, I'll just read a bit. It talks about liaising with the appropriate arms of the government of the Federation and other organizations in assessing the stability and adequacy of existing services and make appropriate recommendations in that behalf to the government and to all. And also advise the government on the adequacy of shipping space, frequency of sailings, terms of shipment, class and quality of vessels, port charges and facilities, and other related matters, to negotiate and enter into agreements with conference lines, ship owners, Nigerian Ports Authority, etc., on matters affecting the interests of shippers. And it is important to remember that it is the cargo that pays everybody. It is the cargo owner that pays the charges, that pays the freights, that pays everything. So government is interested in making sure that the freight rates are structured, that port charges are structured. And what has happened is that Shippers Council has been given like additional muscle to make sure that Shippers Council carries out all of these activities effectively. So I just read from the existing acts, not even the port regulatory regime or the port order or the port regulations.
Yes, but sitting alongside, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to use terminology, Big Brother, Nigeria Port Authority. How do you operate alongside the NPA on one hand and the customs on the other hand? All of these agencies, including your own Shippers Council, regulating the business of shipping and maritime and foreign trade.
Yes, what Shippers Council is supposed to do is to provide the forum for consultations with everybody. Arms of government, government agencies, the private sector, providers of services, users of services. Shippers Council is empowered to provide the forum for consultations. And having done that, also to enter into agreements with MPA, with providers of services. And when we talk about providers of services, it's not just at the ports, along the corridors as well, the connectivity, road hauliers, providers of rail services, which is coming on board now. So Shippers Council is supposed to provide the forum. We talk with everybody, and we enter into an agreement to make sure that there is stability in charges, and that also that the services are adequate to be able to move the cargoes in and out of Nigeria, that the services are adequate to support regional trade, etc., etc. So what we need to do is to just enter into memorandum of MOUs, as we call it, and also agreements with customs, with Nigerian Ports Authority, with NIMASA, etc.
One thing that I have known in my few years of career, well, reporting a little bit of shipping, maritime, trade business, is that the importers, the folks that are in the business of terminal operators, shipping companies, there is issue of high charges. This has gone on for years, for decades. Is it still there? These complaints of high charges, does it still exist?
Yes, it does exist because we are competing with neighboring ports. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of Nigerians and cargoes actually go to the neighboring ports and then to enter into Nigeria, through the borders, the land borders. And we're looking at the charges at the neighboring ports. We have talked with providers of services at our own ports to say that these charges must be reasonable because you're in competition with neighboring ports. And then the charges in Nigeria, sometimes, it's not sometimes, the charges in Nigeria, so far, the charges have been higher than the charges in the neighboring ports. And we have engaged, with the providers of services in our own ports. But then they talk about the problems they face, like the power, the cost of power, the access roads, etc., etc. And we argue that, fine, we have listened to all of that. We're going to do everything within the powers of Shippers Council to liaise with other arms of government to make sure that these problems are looked into and resolved. But however, because we're in competition with neighboring ports, the charges at Nigerian ports should be at par, because it's a shipping business. It's the same vessels calling at the various ports, coming to Nigeria, and they're moving on to the neighboring ports as well. So that Nigeria's cargoes would actually come back to Nigeria. Nigerians who import or export would be happy to use Nigerian ports. And we're talking about making the ports user-friendly. So that has happened, and we're hopeful that maybe very soon the charges would stabilize and become maybe much more reasonable than they have been.
Mrs. Ogo, there's quite a lot to talk about, but we just have about 2 minutes with you. So very quickly, 2 questions in one. How do you address complaints from importers? Number one. Number two, tied together, how do you enforce some of the things you're talking about within the industry?
Importers and exporters, not just importers, can come to Nigerian Shippers Council to complain. They can send us their complaint by email. They can get on the portal www.pssp.ng and complain online. It's an online real-time facility or mechanism, for addressing complaints. They can go to any of the Shippers Council's office nationwide. We have 5, 6 zonal coordinating offices. We have about 13 area offices nationwide. So they can come into us, they can send emails, they can write to us, they can get on the portal. And then also, of course, you find the standard operating procedures for all agencies in the ports, including the government agencies on the portal, which lets you know who is in the port legitimately, what that agency is doing, how it is done, who it is done with, limits of operation, etc.
All right, we thank you for coming through today, Ms. Azuka Ogo, Director of Consumer Affairs at the Nigerian Shippers Council. Do enjoy your holiday. We hope to see you in the days, weeks, and months ahead to get together and broaden on a number of areas within your sector. Thank you very much from our Abuja studios there.